All right, we're live.
Don't see the red button or the show we're live.
It's showing we're live for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm Randy Halstead, the chair of the Policy and Projects Committee for Athens in Motion, and welcome to the meeting of August 18th on Thursday. First item we'll do is review the agenda. We'll start off looking at some funding bucket priorities. So looking at developing priorities for buckets of funding to address widespread issues, such as bike lane gaps, sidewalk gaps, ADA accessibility, bike parking inventory, and some other ideas. We can start off, I have put together a spreadsheet of all the existing projects and see what may need some assistance. And there we'll talk about bike ordinances, then move on to crosswalk policy review. We have a few policies out there, take a look at, see how they can help us in the county developing our own policy or updating our policy. And finish up if we have time with any other business and the next meeting date. Any comments on the agenda?
Yeah, I can't find it. Did you send it out?
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Sure.
I had it up. You see it?
It is not sharing.
Why am I not getting?
Here, I just got it pulled up if you want me to share.
Yeah, if you would please, because why is nothing sharing?
Can everybody see it?
Yes. I'm just trying to find it on Drive to.
Yeah, and yeah, he sent the draft agenda to me, and I just went ahead and PDF'd it. I didn't forward it on to the group, so.
Okay, wait, I think I found it. Yes, it's in the Drive. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Randy. Thank you,
Sure.
Daniel.
It's just why am I not seeing what's being shared? I think I have Teresa's computer bug today.
What are you logged in on? What kind of computer?
On a Mac desktop.
I think it's something with that because I think Teresa has a Mac as well.
Yeah, because well, the last meeting, I had my MacBook and had no problems. That's interesting. Awesome.
I fixed myself.
All right.
Hey.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, this is make things challenging, but we'll move on.
Well, I'll just describe what's up on the screen since you can't see it, but I just have the agenda pulled up.
Sure.
So, can everyone else see the agenda? It's
Yes.
okay, great. We got funding bucket priorities for 45 minutes, bike ordinances for 10, crosswalk policy review for 20, other business next meeting for 5. Does that work with everybody?
Yes, I think we also need to vote on the minutes from last month.
Right.
I think I sent out. I'm trying. Gosh, I can't find it. Can't find anything.
Sure, yeah, it's on the drive, third file down.
Okay. If I actually opened the folder instead of just searching for stuff, I actually navigated to it. Oh, there it is. I do have the minutes pulled up. Do you guys need me to share those?
If you could, that would be great.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So here is our minutes from our last meeting. And we mostly talked about the crosswalk policy review. I probably won't leave such play-by-play notes this time. By the way, I'm happy to take minutes this time too.
Okay,
Um,
that knocks off the next item.
yeah. But if does anyone have any corrections to this? Additions?
No, looks great.
Yeah.
I think I sent this out to everyone. I think I was trying to do it like Teresa style, like get it out there super fast.
Yeah, actually, I believe you had it sent out shortly after the meeting, actually even before the meeting ended, to tell you the truth.
What?
That's amazing.
I wouldn't know.
Very efficient.
Okay, I'm going to have to do better now.
Yeah, so does someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
You should
Sure.
make it.
I'll make the motion.
All right,
second.
Randy second. Everyone in favor?
Hi.
I
All right, it passes. So Daniel, I know I'm supposed to get this to you, so I will get that to you right away.
Thank you.
And I nominate myself to take the minutes for this meeting too. And again, I'll try not to do so much of a play-by-play because that's what the video is for.
Okay. All right, then we can move on to the funding bucket priorities. Daniel, do I have permission to share? Is that something you need to do on your end? Because I got all the buttons, but
There should
nothing
just be a
else.
button next to stop video. My button says
Yeah.
mute, stop video, and then share.
Okay.
And everybody else has that option, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Because I'm hitting.
are you logged in through the browser?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. It did open up the WebEx meeting app.
Okay.
Well, I guess can you just pull up the file bike and sidewalk projects? It's in the.
Is that the one that I shared with you guys?
No, this is one that I had been putting together
Okay.
over the last week or so.
And you emailed it to me, right?
I think I did email you the link, but it's in the top layer of
Gotcha.
policy and projects. It's frustrating.
Okay, so it's on the AIM website?
Yep.
Or
yeah,
what do we
in the
call it?
AIM folder. Yeah. And in the policy and projects committee folder. So when are we going to in person?
We do not know. All right. Bike and sidewalk projects.
Yes.
Did the I think my share just went away. Try that again. All right. Is let's see. Can y'all still read it if it's at this scale?
I can't see it.
I didn't hear anybody.
I
Yeah.
blow mine up with the little plus sign above the window.
Yeah.
Okay, so
crank
scale
up the zoom on it.
I can just
Make it better.
I'll get it into like this at least. All right. Randy, do you want to talk about these, or you want me to kind of go through?
Well, I'm going to, so I'll just walk you through the spreadsheet what I put together. I mean, it's the first column, of course, just the project name. So what I had done is search through all the T-Splosh pages, all the project pages on transportation. Just tried to poke around wherever I could on the Athens-Clarke County website to look at what projects are currently ongoing. And then the project description is right from the particular website, included a link to the project website, what the project source is, whether it's just coming from Athens-in-Motion, whether it's T-Splosh related or Splosh related in some cases, where that funding source is. Because some of the projects like Cherokee Road and Jefferson River Road are actually sharing monies from 2 different projects from the 2018 Splosh. And then looking at just what funding values are out there, the initial funding, any remaining funding. The T-Splosh update that's put out on a monthly basis is a really good source of information for all of this.
There's a lot in there. They've
Yeah.
gotten to be really good about providing updates.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And then current status, so where is that project right now? If we have any actions, and then the updates and notes are essentially just copied and paste out of that Splosh update or from a specific project page if it's not a Splosh project.
Is this the kind of document y'all would like to have available for the public to see? Because this is the first I've seen all this together in one place.
I'd love to put it on our website if it is.
Well, we kind of have to be careful because the T-Splosh and the Splosh updates are official documents, and I almost think that we should link to those as far as project status goes, or include that versus reinventing the wheel. But I know we do want, so the idea here is to give the public some knowledge of what our hands are in right now. Is that it?
Well, for this particular spreadsheet, to be honest with you, it was selfish on my part because I would, to your point, Scott, I mean, I had no idea of all the projects going on. We talk about individual ones, but so I just wanted to have one place where I could go, or anyone from Athens-in-Motion, to be able to look at all the projects, where they're at. Maybe we could create something if we wanted to put something on our website that was more link-based to your point, Lauren, that, you know, at least it'd be a one-stop shop, and then it would just take you to back to the county website.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you have a good point here.
To get a lot of this information, I had to go to multiple web pages and get it all in one particular location.
Yeah.
If this is something you'd like us to see, you know, to have like a web page, like we have a project web page, but it, you know, I haven't taken a stab at it, and I could talk to our web page person and see, you know, I think
like Randy's saying, you know, a lot of this information is available, but it's in different places. And if we're looking at it through the lens of Athens-in-Motion, if you're telling people about Athens-in-Motion and what's going on, a little clearinghouse of information about these updates would be super helpful, all in one place.
Scott, that's what you and I kind of were talking about the other day. And,
Yeah.
I think it would be great, Daniel, if, we could have a discussion with your web person and start talking about some of these things. Because I'm sketching out kind of some ideas about how it might look, you know, and that's not exactly relevant to our discussion here for this meeting today. But, I do think it's a topic that the Athens in Motion should be exploring.
I mean, the simplest thing is, I mean, they're all in different places, but they're all in different places on the ACC Gov website,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
So it's
I
basically
mean,
just
I can,
pointers, saying, okay, here's what Athens in Motion is doing, and here are different projects, and here's what you need to know.
yeah,
Um,
like, I mean, I worked on the park planning page and it's gone through some changes over the years, but, you know, when you go to the landing page for park planning, you can go in to projects or master plans. Here's a link to the public input page for all of leisure services listens. Here's the FAQ. And so if you click on projects, then that takes you to kind of a list just like this. And each of these is a link that actually, like each of these is a web page.
mhm.
So, and these can be linked from various places as well, I'm pretty sure. You don't have to have them nested under here. So, that's something where, we could build something similar. I wouldn't get too in the weeds with like detailing how it looks in terms of like graphic design,
Right.
because it's kind of limiting. But
I
yeah.
think something like that would be a real improvement.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
basically my focus, here's another version of it. My focus in the position has been more getting caught up on projects and getting things implemented. And while it would be really nice to have a better like outreach and communication, like these types of, web page design basically, I haven't really prioritized it because there's just been too many other things to do.
Mhm.
So I can move it ahead of some of the other projects that we got working on. I'm just not sure which things y'all would like to see move down in the list,
Right.
So, I mean,
Certainly.
I think we should still apply for the grants, which those should take precedence probably. Um, do we delay the, I don't know. It's,
Well,
Randy, how
from
often do you think the spreadsheet gets updated? Is this just something that you're working on and it's
well,
just helpful?
yeah, it's just something I put together to get my head around, what we're going to discuss today. I mean, I'll certainly take the responsibility of, on a weekly basis, just checking for updates and keep this, even if, we just keep this file for ourselves.
I mean, not a lot of people are interested in this context, but occasionally somebody might reach out to an AIM commissioner and ask, "What's going on with that?" And you can be like, "Well, I can show you."
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that something like this really would be a good resource.
I would say that I don't think we should share a Google link
Yeah, right.
through the webpage. So.
Yeah, so the issue is getting something like this on a page, which the only person who can do that is you, Daniel. And you already have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I wish I could just log in to our page and just do this real quick. Do it.
I mean, we could do like a work day where like we can do some work and either shared screen or coffee shop or something.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can knock it out because you have access to editing web content on ACC Gov.
To certain pages. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I believe. Let's see. I don't know if this is actually going to work. Athens in motion. Okay. This is the plan. I feel like it would make sense that like this stays as the plan and don't necessarily overcomplicate it. So maybe what it might just be is that under Transportation Public Works, we create a, you know, bike ped webpage. But I mean, we currently have construction projects because it could just be a button from there that says like bike and pedestrian projects or something that links from the Athens in Motion plan site. Like click here to see current projects underway. And then that takes you, yeah, here's this page here. This is kind of the problem is they're all kind of nested. But this is all we have right now on the bike and pedestrian improvement projects page. Let me see if I've added access. Yeah, it looks like it. Yep. So yeah, if I mean essentially the way that it works is I have widgets I can drop in. So if you provide me just the written portion, you can see on the left we've got editor, image, slideshow, related documents. These are all the different widgets we have. So if you provide the content, then I can pretty quickly and easily put it in.
Yeah, do you know how well copy and paste works? Like if we take a spreadsheet, the spreadsheet, turn it into a table that's within a Word doc, kind of like what Randy's done, just copy and paste it. Does it transfer pretty well on the CMS?
Not necessarily. But you know, I would within the editor widget, there are some, I think, yeah, here's the editor widget. You can see where you can kind of create a table and then you can just like paste it as plain text. So you can do that type of thing. I believe this one is, let's see. Yeah, this might just be a, let's see. Oh, pages. Okay, maybe. Let me see what pages looks like. Okay, so yeah, so what this is essentially, there are subpages on here. So these are housed under this page, and then this is just a list of those pages. And this automatically pulls in the title and description of the page, so that's pretty helpful.
Okay.
But I can't necessarily, I just lost sharing, didn't I? I can't like, if they're at different locations on the website, then I can't bring them into this widget.
You can link to pages though.
Yeah, so I can link to these pages and then yeah, I could do an editor and then we could have it kind of built out that way. There's probably some site tools that I'm not as familiar with. I know on each page you have a version here.
Yep.
You can make changes to that too, so.
Okay. I will get with you on getting something like this up. I do think, Randy, you've really proved a point here that the information is out there. It's just not in a place. And I would like to be able to point people like our new upcoming commissioners. I'd like to be able to point them to something like this and be like, here's what we are working on. So
if nothing else, it really shows that there's a lot going on.
there is, right? Yeah.
And people should be well aware of that. There's a lot going on.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's part of the reason why they're not more well aware of it, because with all this stuff going on, we're just trying to keep up with, actually managing the project. So.
Yeah, no, you have no easy task, Daniel. You and the rest of the department. There's just really a lot going on.
Yeah.
Are there periodic updates from the engineers about these individual projects? Because it seems like, we went through our whole exercise of, the walk audits and everything, and the mayor and commission said, okay, fine, let's do it. And then, crickets. So it'd be nice if there were a way to just say, well, even though it doesn't seem like we're doing anything, we're actually, surveying here and communicating with homeowners there and that sort of thing.
Well, and there's also kind of a difference. Like, a lot of these are once they're past the concept stage and we're going into construction plans, then really you guys don't need to be involved with it. And so we can continue having walk audits and stuff like that. I mean, I haven't hosted any walk audits with you guys. I know that I think Hillary did. So I'm not sure exactly what all y'all did or what the crickets are that you're talking about, but
Well, it's just that, like say Jefferson River Road. So, that project went through its public outreach process, and so it has the funding for the multi-use path.
Mhm.
But if somebody asks me, so what's going on with Jefferson River Road, I don't really know how to answer that question, because it could be a lot or it could be nothing, but I don't, I wouldn't know how to answer the question for someone.
Someone being a commissioner
No,
or
anyone, like a resident on the road who was interested.
yeah, I mean, it's basically in construction. They're developing the construction plans.
Okay.
So, and that takes a couple of years.
Yeah. So where would I
so-
find something that says in the construction planning phase?
Well, I mean, it's just the Jefferson River Road sidewalks. This is the page that we have for that. It was last updated December 13th, 2021. So,
Yeah.
if I think the most effective thing you could do is just send them to
you?
have them call the office,
Okay.
the transportation admin office, because that's a big part of what we do. Is we get calls all the time from people asking where we're at on projects, and so
Okay.
I think what I want to avoid is, like, let's say we do make a web page with all of our projects on it. I'm not going to have a status like thing that we can fill in, because that gives me another web page that I have to update. So if I have a status on every single 15 of these projects, and then what happens if I accidentally miss one of those? And so if there's a way to automatically track it, or if we have it on one page where it's like maybe a project status page where we update all the statuses, like, that's, I think, a good idea. But I would just be nervous about creating this many web pages that, because we currently have them, and our project web pages are basically like, here's all the information, historical and current, that that is for this project, and I have issues with that as well, just because it is a lot of info, and really, maybe we just need an archive section of each one. In the same way that I haven't had time to work on our bike and ped webpage, like Julia and the other staff, they haven't had time to do that either. So.
Okay, so I mean, but there is the page of construction projects for TPW, so we can link to that, and also include notes like projects funded by T-Splost and Splost. Here's a link to the T-Splost page update, 2018, 2023, and then also just have a note like this stuff takes a while. I think.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
if we had, if you scroll to the bottom there with that, where it shows the T-Splost updates, a link to that. I think that page is really good.
Where did you find that?
On some of the T-Splost, if you go to T-Splost 2018 and go to a specific, actually, I'm not sure if it's on the front page or not, but if you go to a specific project, it will list, there's a link there to go to the update.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think even like the Splost office doesn't
Oh, yeah,
necessarily include status updates on their individual project pages. There's just the summary, and then there's a link to the monthly update, which has the details project by project.
Got it. So this is the monthly update.
Oh yeah, now they have sub-page. They have sub-project pages now?
So yeah, this is T-Splost 2018, and these are all the individual projects, and they each have, like you're saying though, this is just, I guess they do have sub-project pages, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you click
So-
on one of those? Because I hadn't noticed the sub-project pages before.
This is,
Yeah. Okay. Actually, maybe I have seen these before. Of course, 2023, we haven't started anything on that yet. I mean, there's stuff. I think there's stuff going on in the background, but we're not collecting for 2023 yet. So
yeah, I think we're currently going through the prioritization. And let me pull this up because I feel like it's okay for me to, if I actually took a picture. Maybe I didn't. Oh no, yeah. Here is here's a screenshot of T-Splost 23. I'm sharing this because the Greenway Commission, Alex already shared it with the Greenway Commission, so this is just related to Greenway and leisure services projects, but just to give you an idea of what they're currently working on, this is where we're planning out the budget for when these things will fall. So, for instance, North Athens Transportation Improvement Program, 1.2 million will start up from October 22 to June 23. So that's like 9 months of this fiscal year. So this column is our current fiscal year. This is the next one, so on and so forth. And so you can kind of see Firefly Trail is front loaded in the program to try to go ahead and build that out. And you can see Greenway Trail safety improvements is kind of up there as well. So they're split apart in multiple fiscal years too, because this is usually the first year is usually more for design. And maybe some acquisition and stuff, and not so much. We don't want to just use up the money all at once and have it encumbered, because it takes us longer to spend it anyways. So this isn't necessarily the final schedule. This is undergoing. They're kind of doing this with all the different programs and moving things around. They're trying to keep it, divided up evenly so that it's not using more or less than the money in that year. But in terms of what they're currently working on, this is a good representation of that.
okay, yeah, thanks for sharing this. So going back to, I guess, the heart of Randy's item, like, what would you want to do, Randy?
Well, I mean, ultimately, what our discussion here was, I think, came out of our last full meeting, where we were talking about the bike lanes, the gaps on Oglethorpe, and funding coming out of aim to possibly fill those gaps in. So that's where we were going to look back at what funding we had and look at these projects, and are there other projects that we could, or that should we develop a separate bucket? I'm assuming from the 8 million that we have for the big bucket, T-SPLOST 2023.
Well, and I think there's still some current 2018 funds that haven't been encumbered. So like,
Well,
but it might be.
Yeah, that's that would be Barber Street. I think it's all going to Barber Street
yeah, if you go
from 2018.
Mhm.
on the Google sheet for the bike and bed project, there's 2 sheets. If you go to the second sheet, on the 2018 T-SPLOST, there are 2 projects, 11 and 12, one pedestrian and one bicycle, that are general funds. And that's where the funding is coming from to do Jefferson River Road, Cherokee Road, and River Bend Road. But there's,
Right.
it doesn't total it seems to be a little bit of money left over, which would have been nice in
We have
hindsight.
a
These plus
proposed 6 million for Barber Street if that gets fully funded. The concept has not been approved, so we can't. That hasn't been encumbered yet. So, and I guess what I mean is, it does show 1.8 million in the remaining funds, but that also doesn't consider the segment 4 additional costs that we're going to incur if we go with one of those new options. Because the 6 million is only considering segments 1 through 3, and then the Sharo option that we called it for segment 4. So those remaining funds would likely be used up if all that money was allocated towards Barber Street. But in the same way that kind of the way they space the funding out to implement later on, that is a possibility where we know it's going to take a few years to implement Barber Street after the concept is approved. So rather than go ahead and encumbering all the funds for construction right now, we could just, get it moving towards that direction, and then they can, vote to fund the rest of it out of T-SPLOST 23 or something.
Yeah, that would have to come out of our general bucket though, and we only have 8 million. So,
Right.
but
Well-
I see what you mean about like it's going to take years to do this, and it'll be a while before we have anything under construction. And meanwhile, people are going to be like, "What? There's already been 2 T-SPLOSTs. How is this money not spent yet?"
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, that, and like the Firefly Trail right now. I mean, originally from the beginning in Athens to the end in Winterville, that was all budgeted under one project. And I know there's always cost overruns, and especially when projects go for years, they get more expensive every year.
Right.
But should we be allocating all the funds up front?
With
that we
Firefly
know-
Trail, we don't really have a say on that. Although the trail system, I think, is an important backbone of our network. So I don't want to undercount
Yeah.
it, but we
Yeah,
want
and-
control over that.
Yeah, and I was just bringing that up as an example of, I
Okay.
mean, I know it is a challenge for any of these projects
Sure.
to allocate, to think into the future as to how much money, how much construction is going to cost. But
Mm-hmm.
we should have the ample amount of money that we can finish finish projects.
Yeah, Firefly to Winterville should be done with this one.
Yeah.
With this T-SPLOST. Or done in the sense of we'll have a trail, and someday we'll have like bathrooms and parking and things like that. Okay,
Plenty
so
of
what
trees.
is there anything that we can help clear up for you, Randy, in particular, since you've gone through and looked at all this? Like, what questions do you have remaining?
Well, I think the main question really is to answer the question that came out of, our full meeting last month when we were talking about the specific example of funding that sidewalk or the bike gap, and I think the discussion headed towards, do we need to set aside, I don't want to call it a slush fund, but just a fund that doesn't go to any specific project, but
Well,
has
it's
the
developing a
opportunity.
project, right?
Well, or
So it's developing a bike project, and then we would be using T-SPLOST funds to implement that project. So it would be a sub-project of bike lane gaps is how I would phrase that.
well, what I'm seeing is that when the opportunity arises in an existing project, like that intersection project never was not looking at the bike lane gap.
Mhm.
But if you're going to do the construction, what better time to fill those gaps than while we're already ripping and tearing and incurring cost? So do we want to just set aside some money? Because to your point, Lauren, we have that $8 million, and that is to fund some other projects, new projects, correct? That we identify out of the master plan.
Oh, I mean,
Do you want
it can cover a lot of things. It can also cover accessibility barriers, those types of things. I mean, the important thing to remember is that Athens in Motion Commission is the user group for this bucket of funds. They are the user group for Project 11 Bicycle Improvements Program and Project 12 Pedestrian Improvements Program out of the T-SPLOST 2018 budget. So essentially, we could have a meeting with SPLOST, and that would be a SPLOST user group meeting. And so essentially, we would have them come to one of our meetings as a commission, and we could talk about it would essentially be a vote of the commission to create a new project, a new sub-project. And that sub-project would then get sent to the T-SPLOST Oversight Committee to make sure that they agree with the way that those funds are being used. For instance, with the Bicycle Improvements Program, it includes capital improvements on routes for the bicycle projects as may be contained in the 2017 Bike Ped Master Plan once approved by Mayor and Commission and as may be amended from time to time. It may include additional roadway bicycle lanes, roadway paving markings, off-road bicycle paths, trails, related signage, and or bicycle-related amenities. So you could essentially, I think, may include additional road bicycle lanes. That's one of the sub-projects that you could create. And the catch here, though, is that you wouldn't just say, okay, we're going to put this 1.8 million into doing this, and then we'll fill in bike gaps. We would need to have those identified ahead of time. And so we could use a map. We could identify, there's a few different types of gaps that are currently existing. And so it could even, it could be on, maybe we do one for filling in bicycle lane gaps, but maybe there's another one for protecting existing bike lanes, or maybe those are both part of it. So that you could get like Zikla zippers for Pulaski, where we have existing bike lanes, or even for Hancock, where we have the new bike lanes that we've put in and people are parking in the bike lane. Well, maybe we put in some of the Zikla zippers along there. So as a user group, y'all can identify the allocation of those funds in that way, and then that would be sent to mayor and commission, and then it would go to the SPLOST user group, and then it would become a project that SPLOST would manage as the project managers.
Okay.
I know it seems really complicated.
Yeah.
No, I'm just letting my head stop spinning for a second. And
Yeah, I think I'm having a little trouble with this because in my mind, our 2018 funds are pretty much encumbered. So I kind of want to think about things from a 2023 perspective, and maybe that's not really helpful.
I will say that the issue with that
Well-
is if we wait for 2023 funds, those aren't going, like based on where it falls in the scheduling, it might not be scheduled until 2024 or 5. Like
Yeah.
I don't know where it falls in the scheduling, so we won't have funds available until then.
So you're saying that maybe what we need to do is look at the buckets from 2018 and our buckets from 2023 as one holistic bucket. That's like, this is the total we have to spend, and whether Barber Street has, 2 million allocated from 2018 for the start of the design, and then the rest of it is the construction's funded from 2023 when that money becomes available. Then we still have money from 2018 to get some other projects rolling. Is that the approach we're talking about here?
Yeah, so
Okay.
if the money is not encumbered yet, but it can be through mayor and commission. For instance, Cherokee Road does not currently have any money towards construction. So we're hovering at 85% preliminary engineering, and that's as far as it was planned to be taken. So now we need to either decide to use 2023 funds to do the construction or find a grant or something like that. We can't just let it sit on the shelf and gather dust, though. With Jefferson River Road and Riverbend Road, both of those projects became fully fund for both design and construction. So those are encumbered. Barber Street has not been voted on, so we don't even have an approved concept, and none of those funds have been encumbered. So I would view the 2023 funds as a continuation of this program of the Project 11 and Project 12 T-SPLOS programs. And the way that you can essentially look at it is, what can we do now on the ground this year? Like if you allocate $6 million and encumber that for one project, we know that it's going to take us 4 years to do that project, then we're going to be spending the last of that money in 4 years. But if we split that up over the next few years, and we start more projects now, then you can go ahead and start spending money out of some of those. So filling in sidewalk gaps and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I think something I'm a little bit worried about is starting a lot of things and then not being able to get them done. Like we already spent a lot of time on the Cherokee project, and it's just going to be on hold for who knows how long. And then we've had like 4 special called meetings on Barber Street, and so I would just don't want to get to a point where it's like, well, we're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because when again, going back to that list of projects, I mean, you almost wonder, can we get them done with the resources we have? And when I say we, I mean the county. I mean, the whole group is working pretty hard to get this done, but do we want to focus on a set number of these?
Well, I mean, I'll say this. We're handling all of these projects. We have consultants working on them, and we have update meetings every month with each of those consultants. So I have 2 to 3 consultant update meetings every month that I go to, and they're continually working on these things. And we are going and doing site visits, and if it's a GDOT related project, like just the other day, we did what's called a PFPR, which is preliminary field plans review, and that was for the West Broad at Hancock
Right.
roundabout. So all of these projects are ongoing, and we're handling them. The things that we don't have funds for include things like we will not be filling in any bike lane gaps unless we have a project for it. And so I think that's the concern is while we're doing these big projects, you can't always figure out like here's the perfect start and end point, and it's really difficult to expand the scope after it's done. Now I'm hoping as we move forward, a lot of these corridor style improvements will look at that connectivity. But as it stands, we know that, for instance, Hawthorne, Oglethorpe, there was a gap left over from where we're adding in bike lanes into that intersection. There was also a 3-lane concept that was brought up for Hawthorne, but there has been no movement to actually pursue that and take it back to mayor and commission to say, hey, is this something y'all want to do? And that's where the user group, i.e. y'all's commission, comes in. If we wait for these projects to get completed, then you're going to be seeing probably a 5-year delay before more projects start in the future because we're pretty involved in all of this and they're at different points along in the process. Some of these we'll see them on the ground sooner than others. The Tallahassee Bridge replacement is going on right now. But if we wait for these to start getting checked off as complete, then we lose kind of the momentum that we're having. So that's just my concern with it. That's why I feel like it would be helpful to do 1 or 2 projects. And we could, and ultimately what we could do, and I think this is why we had Splost on the invite last time, but we didn't fully do that this time. But if we get Splost to come talk with us, then they can help us figure out kind of what the next steps are. But I do think this is a better step of like, let's figure out internally before we invite Splost.
Well, I think certainly from Splost, what I would like to understand is, when you're looking, especially when you're looking at 11 and 12 from 2018, what funding is left? I mean, when you look at the update pages, they're already showing that, the X amount is allocated to River Road or Jefferson River Road, or Cherokee Road. But so, what monies are available for use?
Yeah, and they have all those budget line items in their spreadsheets.
Okay, so why don't we either for the next project and policy or a special called meeting, whatever the case may be, get them at least so we can understand what monies are available. Understand the 2023 T-SPLOST, when will those monies be available? So that we can start looking at how to allocate potential.
We know what's been spent or allocated from the T-SPLOST and SPLOST monthly updates. It says it per project, but it might be useful to see a schedule. But I think, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the mayor and commission kind of, they either help or they approve the SPLOST schedules roughly, right?
Everything. Yeah, they approve everything. So at some point they will be approving that. It sounds like what Randy, what you're wanting to see is kind of like what is the budget looking like right now? And I think probably, there is the SPLOST updates, which I'm just gonna, oh, there it is. There's the expenditure summary, revenue status, that kind of stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but like in the case of Cherokee, where it says there's, 2.6 million allocated, but yet the project is at a hold position, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't spent the 2.6, or is that money being allocated elsewhere, or is it freed up other projects? That's what's kind of
So
has been challenging for me to get a handle around here.
I think probably what would be most helpful is a request to the SPLOST office as the user group to get kind of a status checkup on where the funds are at. And I guess, your approach could be, let's get this update and then we'll figure out some projects. Or you could just be like, here's some project ideas that we have. Where could these fit in?
Yeah, but I
And
don't want to recommend a $5 million project and there's only $3 million left. And if there's $3 million left,
yeah.
we should try and find a $3 million project that we could get.
Well, and that's where they come in. That's their job.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. But
I mean, ultimately, it's kind of like, and we don't know how much filling in that gap would be, right? Like I couldn't tell you today what the cost of filling in the gap on Oglethorpe is going to be. But if that's an initiative you want to pursue, then we could create the project, get the cost estimate, figure out how much it's going to cost and see where those funds can be pulled from. I mean, along with all of that, there's also, we have some funds that are within general for like sidewalks. We have like $25,000 here and there. Those are usually spent out as part of the road safety audits. This also gives us the opportunity to apply for grants. And so if you have a project that you're working on, then you can basically use the funds to stretch that money out. So I view all of these numbers as being completely flexible until they leave our account. Because at the end of the day, like they could say a bridge costs 5 million and then we could end up spending 8. Because it takes so long to do these things and steel went up in price and and then all of that has to go through mayor and commission and it's handled by the SPLOST office. And so that's not stuff that we really need to worry about. But it's kind of the initiatives I think that like, do y'all want to wait till 23 to start looking at filling in gaps? And I'm not saying 2023 the year, I'm saying T-SPLOST 23, it's likely going to be 25 or 26 before those funds are available.
Sure. Well, I'm looking at in a case like Oglethorpe, if that project finishes and then we go back and try and say, let's, fill in the gaps, it's most likely not going to happen because we just spent quite a bit of money on that particular project. And while, I personally don't bike out that way very often, but I know I went to an eye doctor's appointment on there and I almost got clipped pulling out onto that road because somebody, decided they were going to go into that turn lane a block and a half back. But when you look at that stretch too, it's going to be a challenge to extend the bike lanes because it's pretty narrow there with the turn lane. So,
but that's what I'm saying is like we can't.
Yeah.
Like the intersection project will handle. It should like that's all undergoing. We're working on the concept development. It's going to go through mayor and commission. Hopefully they approve it. That's an individual project, but it's going to create a new gap. It's not going to create a new gap. It's reducing the size of the gap that currently exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have a separate project to fill in that gap, that's a separate thing. And it's not like it's going to get canceled because we put this money in this spot. And like as part of filling in that gap, it's not just putting the paint on the pavement. It's, widening. It's probably going to have to look at the Sunset intersection. You know, I rode through there. I think Lauren, you and I rode through there one day, and it doesn't pick up your bike if you're waiting at that traffic signal. You know, there's probably some intersection improvements that need to go in right there, and that would include widening to accommodate fresh bike lanes up to where they need to connect. Now, when it comes time to actually construct it, if this is scheduled in the right way, it could be that we have the same construction company doing both of these projects, because you can get some cost savings in that way too. So,
which would make the most sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right.
so
Well, to try and finish this discussion up, so I'm hearing out of this, why don't we can meet with T-Splosh just to get an understanding of the funds and funds availability. And I think I would like to go that route. I don't know what's everyone else think,
I think it makes sense.
just so that we understand timing. Then to finish what I thought came out of our last meeting, the full meeting, and these buckets of funding. So we can either just take our big bucket fund and start looking at projects for that, and but also just start looking at all the projects going on and projects that we want to go with in the future, and just make recommendations there, and hopefully the funding is available.
I mean, this right here shows you that we have $10.2 million in pedestrian improvements program, and we have spent 1.1 million of that or encumbered it. So that means that we've only used up 12% of this budget, which shows that like they're not going to prioritize our T-Splosh 23 towards the front of the program. And I can tell you that because we met about that, and that is what they said. You know, same thing here. We've only spent 7% of the bike improvements. So it's not, it's budgeted, but it's not encumbered, right?
And I mean, let's be real. I guess the issue is like we have so many projects going on, and then there's only so many people who can manage that, and then even talk to the construction companies and their supply chain shortages. Is that really what we're up against here? Because yeah, it does surprise me when I see how little that we've actually spent or encumbered.
We're in the middle of developing, you know, concepts,
Yeah.
construction plans. We haven't spent any money on any asphalt, concrete, or steel, right? So like, as we move forward in the next project, in the next phase, you know, once we get that 85%, and then it goes through mayor and commission again, and then they vote to move into right-of-way acquisition, you're going to see money starting to get spent. So we have, that's where this budgeted amount right here. You know, we have a budgeted amount for sub-project 1.445. So I think that's where you're seeing, like, yes, the money is going to be spent, but like, when looking at actually what has been spent, like something like filling in like a slight expansion of right of way is not the same as a mile long multi-use path, right? So that project, honestly, like, I mean, this isn't a promise, obviously, but like, it's very possible that we could complete the design, the concept and the design, and get that through all of our processes way faster, you know, before the intersection actually even goes in. So it's, you know, it's definitely not everything is going to take a 2 to 4 year process, but some of them can. You know, one of the project buckets under pedestrian improvements could be removal of barriers, and we've talked about that. So removal of the like if there's a pole in the middle of the sidewalk, and like that cost per thing, but that's just us literally paying like Georgia Power to go out and move that pole. So
Yeah, but I guess we're talking that, you know, the encumbered amount of value is very low, or encumbered amount of money is very low, but the budget amount of money pretty much covers everything in 11 and 12. So, I mean, ultimately, if we start other projects and take money out of the budgeted, you know, part of T-Splost 11 and 12, then we run into either shortfalls or have to, when we get into 2023, start pulling money in from that general fund to finish these general fund projects.
Yeah, I think that this is just how it's going to be. I think it's just in process that goes on and will extend multiple T-Splosts. Ideally, when the next T-Splost comes up, we have some, you know, some things done, but I think I'm seeing now, Daniel, your point about if we just kind of wait around until one project is done, the money just kind of hangs out there. So in other words, we almost have to proceed as if there is going to be another T-Splost with another set of bucket funds, like that it's going to be continuous, or that we're going to get grants or something.
yeah, and I mean, I understand the fear of spending your money out and not having anything left to keep working on projects, but I mean, there's also kind of that it's not a use it or lose it situation, but you've all, you know, most of you have been on a T-Splost committee choosing projects. Like if you're looking at potential projects coming down the pipeline for the next, you know, T-Splost 2028, if you're on that committee and you're looking at things and you see that, you know, the bike ped stuff just hasn't, ever since 2018, it still hasn't really taken off, are you going to choose those projects?
I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think there's a perception issue, you know, that
Right.
And
we
I
need
think
to
my
address.
concern, like from a system design standpoint, like network design standpoint, is that it's great to have all these big projects, and we're going to have all these really big things that are going to be coming out in like, you know, a few years. But from riding around on the ground with Scott at our bike audits and like experiencing it, like there are all of these minor improvements that need to happen to make the biking experience better. And safer, that could be done with these funds. I don't have funds in our safety budget to be able to do this yet. I'm hoping we could get some capital budget for each year we get, you know, $30,000 or $40,000, and we could go out and purchase some of these things, you know, zippers and stuff like that. But this is why I kind of wanted to bring it up, and I think it would be a good use of funds to start exploring these sub projects that are more like a systems approach to addressing these types of things and not so much like a project approach. But and I was just going to also mention the 2.6 construction budget. I think that's actually what's estimated for construction, but that hasn't been encumbered because the mayor and commission voted for just the design.
Yeah. Yeah, this is hard, and this is one of the shortcomings of splosts and whatnot is it's a bit easier to sell something. Well, I mean, it's hard enough, I guess, really. It's a bit easy, but it's easier to sell something as concrete and asphalt and miles of concrete and asphalt versus zippers or construction or like intersection redesign. Those are subtle but very important changes. So I don't know.
I'm going to show you all something real quick.
And I'm going to note it's 5:15 and we haven't moved on to our other items. And this is we're supposed to be done at 5:30.
Okay. Do you want me to show you the worksheet or no?
I'll leave that up to the chair.
I would like to continue.
Okay.
I want to take this to the finish. The policy or the crosswalk and ordinance. Is there anything exciting in the bike ordinance, Daniel? Earth shattering that we need to cover? Okay, good. Okay. And the crosswalk policy
a couple
can wait
things.
for the next meeting.
Um,
Because I would like to, and maybe in the next 15 minutes, at least that we all have a general understanding of what are we going to do to move forward fund-wise? Are we just going to try and pick a couple of new projects, go with Daniel's, the idea of which I kind of like personally, of looking at these the widespread issues and
So yeah, and I mean, I think so. On one hand, it doesn't seem like it is that impactful to like miles helps us a lot, but this is the spreadsheet for bike friendly community. This is how they're judging what our community score is, and so you can see here is bike lanes. For roads, oh man, what just happened? Oh, I know what happened. So for roads that are faster than 25 miles an hour, we're not getting as much credit basically for having bike lanes in these areas. If we protect those bike lanes, then they get recategorized down to here. So that's the value, right? It makes the lanes safer, and on the ground, it makes the experience better. And we can continue working on our long distance things, but something like protecting a lane is just the cost of the barrier and installation, right? It's not a we're not buying right of way expansion or stuff like that. And so that's just my take on it, personally.
do you think from a project construction, I mean, this would be easier to implement than,
I believe it would be easier to implement.
because it would be nice to have some look what's being done projects, and well, look what's been finished projects.
But I'd also love, I mean, and this kind of gets into some of the Athens in Motion prioritization stuff, but we're going to need to go to public engagement, which the first time around, there's basically a web map that you could go on and you could report some barriers, you could report problematic areas. This is an area I would love to take my kids for a walk or something like that, and then they closed the public input down and then processed it for the Athens motion plan. This time around, I'm going to propose that we just leave it open permanently. And so what it becomes is it's an interactive tool that people can go, it's like our current process for public engagement is to say like, hey, what do you want to see? You've got 3 weeks to tell us. And what we can do is we can kind of change that methodology by saying, hey, if you see a barrier or you see something unsafe or you want to see better improvements in these areas, go to this web map and report it. And what we could potentially do is if we have a bucket of funds for, say, sidewalk barriers, we could actually have an option in that public engagement tool to say report a sidewalk barrier, and then we can decide on a quarterly basis, all right, here are all the reported barriers, which ones do we want to prioritize to take care of? So that's where we could start getting into the implementation of some of these things. But
Okay. So in that case, we'd be looking at essentially asking the public what's out there that needs to be fixed or improved, and we would. I'm trying to, where's the cart and the horse in this situation? in that we as Athens in Motion say we're going to allocate $2 million to this particular sub-project. And we'll then wait for input from the public and fix
Not
what we
even,
can.
you could just say allocate it for this project, and then we start choosing which barriers, because we got plenty to choose from. So, you know, maybe it's you choose the neighborhood, or maybe it's, you know, we do an initial inventory. Or maybe like step one is to pay a consultant, you know, some money to actually, you know, we have LiDAR systems that drive down roads and they check the pavement condition. We're currently exploring what does it look like if they are also looking at sidewalk condition and barriers, and they could go ahead and create that inventory for us. And then we can use that $2 million. We could essentially create a matrix and create a prioritization and run that through you guys to get it taken care of.
And that $2 million would come from what's remaining in 2018 piece loss, or
Yeah,
out of the $8 million for the big bucket.
personally, I think it would make sense to use the 2018. You know, I think the important thing to look at, especially if we're talking sidewalk gaps, is what the project description says. So, capital allocations for the pedestrian improvements as will be contained in 2017 Bike Ped Master Plan and as may be amended from time to time. It will provide for land acquisition, design, and construction, sidewalk improvements, and or installation of pedestrian safety devices such as stamped and colorized crosswalks, flashing crosswalks, AD compliant elements, pedestrian signage, pedestrian countdown timers, and other safety equipment. So this one might be difficult because, you know, this is kind of a standalone statement here, which is for pedestrian improvements as contained in the master plan. So digging through the master plan to find where the pedestrian, you know, the barriers, removal of the barriers. I think that might be one of the project goals, sub-project goals, but I think the new one actually specifically references 2023 specifically references removal of barriers for ADA accessibility. But
Okay, so I'm looking at the Project 11, the bicycle improvements program, and it's worded similarly to the PED, where it's
yeah, I mean,
talking about referencing the master plan and include, well, here it does say additional roadway bicycle lanes, roadway pavement markings, off-road path. So,
Lauren,
you know,
what's your interpretation of that?
Can we go back to the wording?
Yes. Can you read that okay?
I'm zooming in. Let's see, where's the zoom? I've lost the zoom. Oh. Yeah, capital improvements on routes. That sounds like any form of infrastructure that facilitates movement by bike. And of course, now we have a lot more micromobility options too that we need to consider. It's like the pressure is mounting to have some sort of in-between way between driving and walking for people to get around.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need like a vote here today. I think obviously this has been like a really good discussion, and
Yeah.
really long one.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, if this is something you want to think about more, next steps, bring in SPLOS to talk to the commission in general, and we could essentially do a user group meeting.
Mhm. Yeah, I want to chew on this a bit. I want to see like kind of big transformative projects, and for me that is concrete and asphalt. But I think after seeing how this pilot project does for Prince Avenue, where we're not increasing the road bed, putting in paint and then the Zikla zippers, I'll probably feel a little bit more optimistic about what our resources and what we're gonna spend the money on. It feels a little bit like you have 5 days off a year or something like that, and you can take those 5 days and pad your weekends, or you can take like a trip somewhere. I'm kind of leaning towards wanting something that's more like the trip
Yeah.
versus just the extended weekends or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean, I kind of like, well, from the extended weekend concept, it's something that we can physically show, look what's done, look how things have been improved. And I think there's opportunity there, lots of opportunity.
right. There's public education going on, and again, I think I will feel a lot better about all of this after the Prince Avenue pilot project, where we're creating barriers and because I think a lot of people are going to be like how some of our commissioners have felt in the past, where they're like, oh, if it's not a multi-use path, then I don't feel good biking on it, right? And we don't want that. We don't want the perception of like, oh, we put paint down on the existing road bed and having people not feel like it's enough and then feel like we didn't do anything to improve our network. That, you know.
Yeah. But there's also the challenges of, being another, was it Barnett Shoals? Where we
Yeah.
made a radical change and it went right back.
Yeah, but that was before the Athens in Motion Commission existed.
That's true.
We're here.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's not just us, right? Like, it's.
Yeah, this is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. No. All right, so why don't we, because it's we're just about at 5:30. Can we take the action to get with T-SPLOS at our next meeting and start to understand, at least from the monies available, if everyone will give some thought as to the big or not the big buckets, but if we want to just choose a, I'm losing the phrase that you used, Daniel.
I don't know. Project? Sub-project.
I don't know. Well, not the sub projects, but these. If I could get back to my agenda.
Bike lane
There
gap.
we go. The that's the minute. At the widespread issues, whether it's bike lane gaps, sidewalk gaps, ADA, those types of things, or do we really want to put those monies aside for big projects? Give that some thought as to where you feel that will be most effective, and then we'll bring this up at the next meeting. We can have T-SPLOS first, and then finish up with the rest of us at the commission speaking to those issues.
Scott, do you have thoughts on any of that?
Yeah.
Talking to T-SPLOS?
No, on what it would look like to do these gaps, or fill in these gaps. Like what do you feel like is more impactful for the community? Improve what we got, expand what we got, connect the network.
All
Like,
of the above.
I mean, all of the above, but I've been definitely. I think you've asked me this before, and I think my answer was finish your network. The network is not complete. And it's nice to have big capital projects for multi-use paths that are needed, tier 1 projects, but those are only small parts of town. And to get from one part of town to the other part of town, you're trying to navigate a network it's got gaps. So sidewalk gaps, bike lane gaps, fixing the little things along the way that make that ride easier to get from one part of town to others. I would think that would be a big impact. But again, only so much time, only so much money. It seems like time is super finite as a resource here. Everything just takes so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As a quick policy update, the main update I have is I talked with we got some recommendations from Bike Athens about bike parking criteria for the code. I worked with planning, and some of you guys are on the email thread as well, but there was a really great actually, it's from the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals, which is the conference I'm going to. There's a really great essentials of bike parking document. Planning is not willing to incorporate that for various reasons into their code, but there is a line in the code that specifically says that TPW director keeps a list of approved bicycles or a list of approved racks or some reference to that. Basically, we have a document that outlines more specifics for individual bike racks. And so I'm currently going through the process of adopting the essentials of bike parking as that guide for our land development team. So I'm going to be meeting with them and discussing that. That's not anything that would have to go through any sort of Mayor Commission action. It is an internal thing, but this would end up being enforceable. So, by Teresa,
Right.
with private developments. So, and this could give us better parking around town while we're working on the network.
Assuming it's enforced.
Yeah. And yeah, and if y'all come across this space, that the whole way that this started was somebody said, hey, this brand new development doesn't have a bike rack. It seems like it should. Contacted me. I got in touch with planning. Turns out that they had installed it for inspection and then removed it, and then put landscape in after the initial inspection. So
What? They did
yeah.
what?
Wow.
It's gone.
So whoa,
Yeah.
this blows my mind. They installed it just so they could get something checked off the list, and then they removed it.
Apparently this is a thing that some design firms do, is they have a select number of bike racks and they install, pull it up, move it to the next one, install, pull it up, move it to the next one. And so
That's low down.
and we don't have a
That's low down.
mechanism to go back and check. And so they're aware of it now. They followed up, they've notified the business, and they are requiring them to put it back. I don't know what's going to keep them from doing it again, but
Because we have eyes on the road. There are many
so
of
yeah,
us.
keep an eye out if you feel like there's not a
Yep.
bike rack. And I mean, and this is part of like one of the things that's in the bike friendly community that I keep reading about is applications they focus a lot on bike parking. And so there's kind of a couple of things here. I mean, one is with this, if we do adopt essentials of bike parking, there's a lot of effort that they are going to have to be putting into installing these bike racks, and it would be a lot of stuff for them to tear out. And so it's how do you get them to make the investment so that they're more willing to keep it there? And that's they being the developers. And the secondary thing is just if we have an inventory and we know where the bike parking is, then that makes it a lot easier for someone to report when that's not there. So, maybe it's a mechanism through that public engagement tool I mentioned where you can say there's bike parking missing at this place, and then I can overlay that with our inventory and I can say, oh, it's supposed to have bike parking. Planning, check it out. In a perfect world.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah. You certainly need to keep your eyes on any of those businesses, especially developments.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh, y'all, come
All
on.
right.
Developers never do a bait and switch. Let's give them a little more, let's be a little more generous.
They're helping us with our community.
Oh,
How
Yeah.
else would we build out the community?
I know
Yeah,
someone's going to use this quote
I know.
against me.
read the article in the flagpole, recent flagpole. But anyway,
Mhm.
all right. So we have our actions. Daniel, can you C-Splosh or do I just email them? What's the path forward to get them involved?
Honestly, I think it may make more sense for Lauren from a chair perspective
Okay.
of the commission to request their presence at the next meeting. And I'm still working that out. I'm getting it on the schedule. I'm going to be at a conference, so I could either skip some sessions or and host the meeting, or I might see Steven's going to be at the public engagement, which is scheduled that night as well for one of our things. So. But he can skip out of that to lead it. So hopefully, if I can find somebody to lead the meeting, or like to lead the actual physical WebEx,
Oh,
then
yeah, that's the issue. I was like, oh, we'll be fine. But then I was
yeah,
like, oh, I can't start up a WebEx, can I?
yeah. I mean, I will. I'll have my computer with me, and if I'm on Wi-Fi, I could just like turn off my computer and put it on mute, and then y'all could run your own meeting, and I could
Yeah.
just get it started.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to figure that out because definitely want you to have your attention on the sessions.
yeah, well, it's all right. That might be honestly the easiest thing. If y'all can just handle the full meeting, then um, I can, yeah, we'll talk about it offline.
Okay.
Yeah, if
All
you've
right
got
then.
some time to catch up, Lauren, maybe we can have a conversation before then.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
All
yeah,
right.
that's next Tuesday too. We'll figure it out.
Yep. Um,
All right. So any other issues? Well, because we're about 8 minutes over. But
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited to take a look at what y'all have done as far as researching crosswalk policies. And I think it would make sense for us to maybe just bump that into the next, to the top of the next agenda. Because I do think that that would be really valuable. And I think there's going to be a few plenary sessions on this type of thing. So I'm sure I'm going to have all sorts of more ideas once I get back from the conference. So. Try to keep me on track if you can.
okay.
All
One
right.
for Denver is pretty good.
I want to go out. I haven't been to Denver in a minute. All right.
All right then. If that's it, then we'll
yeah.
finish up the meeting.
Our next meeting is September 22nd.
It would be
Does that sound right?
Oh, this one.
For this policy and projects
I think
committee.
it's
yeah.
the 15th.
What?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 15.
Third Thursday.
Okay, 15th.
Yeah. Yeah.
September 15th.
Interesting.
Yeah. First Thursday is the first. Yeah.
September 5th. Just making sure that I get it.
Yeah, but I think the request is SPLOST. Are you going to request that they come to the projects committee or to the commission meeting? I think it should be the commission meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if you want it to be the Tuesdays or if you want to wait a month, but
Yeah, let me get with you on our agenda items, Daniel. Wait,
Sounds good.
but you're not going to have any. Okay.
I can help you get it organized. I just won't be
You'll-
listening or partaking in any discussions. And I can watch it later that evening in my
Okay.
hotel room because, you know, do that for fun. But
Okay.
yeah, we should be. And honestly, there is a 30-minute gap in there. So I could hang around for the first hour probably, skip the last half of a panel session. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it here. It's boring. All right.
All right. Okay, then I think that's it, everyone. We'll
Great.
call it a day. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. All right.
Thanks. Bye.